Alright, in this video we're going to be looking at some engravings where the number 1740 has been hidden for a few hundred years. I first learned about 1740 from watching Alexander Waugh's videos, in which he offers a cogent and elegant explanation for how this number pertains to Edward de Vere, who wrote under the pen name William Shakespeare. In his videos Thomas Edwards New and The Divinity of Man, Waugh shows how the number is associated to the Trinity through an exercise John Dee mentions in his preface to Euclid's Elements. Edward de Vere was of course the 17th Earl of Oxford, and a fellow researcher, Chris Johnson, believes the 40 comes from de Vere being the son of Queen Elizabeth, therefore the 40th monarch. In his videos on the Nobody Oxfordian YouTube channel, Chris explains that de Vere would have been the 24th monarch after William the Conqueror and the 40th monarch overall. I'm not going to get into any Prince Tudor theory stuff here, but I want to point out that what the 40 is referring to is still up to debate. For example, using gematria, 40 is equal to 2 V's. De Vere sometimes signed his name double V, and Waugh has shown how the name William Shakespeare is 17 letters, read right to left, followed by 2 V's. So the name William Shakespeare is encoded with 1740. I know I've mentioned this several times before, but one of the first things I discovered when I started working with the Shakespeare codes was that the gematria value of 4 letter T's is equal to 76, which has the same value as the letters spelling Oxford. With gematria, there's a relationship between things of equal value, so Oxford equals 4T, which sounds like 40. Something else I want to add is that the letters spelling Ox, O-X-E, are equal to 40. O is 14, X is 21, and E is 5. So 17 Ox is 1740. I'm not saying this is the genesis of the number, but I think it's something Oxford would have easily figured out for himself and may have helped encourage his belief in 1740 being his number. Waugh explains that 1740 can also stand for Edward de Vere being the 17th Earl of Oxford and the 4th T. The lines of the sonnet's dedication are typeset into 3 inverted triangles comprised of 6, 2, and 4 lines. When the 6th, 2nd, and 4th words are read, 6, 2, 4, we get the message, "These sonnets all by Ever the 4th T." Ever is an anagram of Vere and can also be read as E. Vere. Waugh has also explained that there's an upside-down hidden 4th T in the triple tau symbol of Royal Arch Freemasonry, but beyond that, what is the 4th T referring to? A correspondent and researcher named Jack believes the 4th T symbolizes John the Baptist. As he explains, in the Gospels, when Jesus is baptized by John, we have the appearance of God, the Holy Spirit in the form of a dove, Jesus, and John with his cross representing the 4th T. So the 4th T could be a level of initiation or a title that associates the recipient of the name to John the Baptist. Another connection is, John the Baptist is the patron saint of Freemasonry, and his nativity is celebrated on Midsummer's Day 624 or June 24th. The same day Edward de Vere is said to have died, according to history. The reason for that date might be explained by Manly Hall in The Secret Teachings of All Ages. He writes, "According to material available, the Supreme Council of the Fraternity of R.C. was composed of a certain number of individuals who had died what is known as the Philosophic Death. When the time came for an initiate to enter upon his labors for the order, he conveniently died under somewhat mysterious circumstances. In reality, he changed his name and place of residence. It is believed that this happened in the case of Sir Francis Bacon, who, like all servants of the mysteries, renounced all personal credit and permitted others to be considered as the authors of the documents which he wrote or inspired." I don't know if Hall was familiar with Edward de Vere when he wrote this, but if we replace the name of Sir Francis Bacon's with Oxford's, it might tell us what happened to him, why there was no formal announcement of his death, and why his family didn't even mention it in their letters until I think it was 1610, and why his date of death is 624. The date of the first folio is 1623, and a while back Paul Oldman had commented that all we have to do is add the 1 plus 623 and we get 624. Again, 624 is Edward de Vere's date of death and the nativity of John the Baptist. People have mentioned how unusual the Martin Droeshout portrait of Shakespeare looks, like it's a mask. Something else is how the collar makes the head look like it's been separated from the body. I think it might be an allusion to the head of John the Baptist when it was put on a platter at the request of Herod's stepdaughter, Salome. John is one of the most important figures in Freemasonry, and by having Shakespeare's head presented this way, I think it may be a signal to brothers of the order. There are other codes on the page and throughout the folio covered in my videos, WAS, and others, but I just want to focus on the 1740 that's been encoded here. People have been trying to figure out what these lines in the collar mean for years, and I finally got it figured out. It's a really simple code that merely requires counting and the alphabet. Starting with the collar, there are 2 pointed lines on the left and 4 on the right for a total of 6. In the middle of the collar, under Shakespeare's chin, is this Gemini-looking symbol, which is an 11. 2 plus 4 plus 11 is 17, Edward de Vere's Earl number. Taking a closer look, the 2 lines on the left and 4 on the right are pointed, and the 11 in the middle is comprised of a couple straight lines. Next, count the number of buttons. There are 14, and looking at the Latin alphabet that the codes use, the 14th letter is O. At first I thought 17O stood for 17 Oxford, but that seemed incomplete. Another correspondent, Patrick Jennings, suggested that I should look for something resembling a 4. I checked again, and it didn't take long to see it. Notice the strange shape of the collar. Turning it slightly sideways, it becomes clear that it's in the shape of a letter D. With the alphabet, D is the 4th letter. So we have 2 and 4 lines with an 11 totaling 17 in the collar, a collar that's shaped like the letter D. D is equal to 4, so 17 and 4. Then, counting the buttons, there are 14, which is equal to O, and O looks just like the number 0. Altogether, 1740 or 1740. Again, a real simple solution that's been hiding in the portrait all this time. "17 years after the folio, a second edition of the Sonnets was printed in 1640. This William Marshall engraving was based on the Droeshout with some changes. Chris Johnson made a video about the portrait, and though he and I differ on some of the things he's found, I do believe he's right in pointing out that there are hidden numbers within the 2 garments, and that they're meant to be added together. The fold over the shoulder is in the shape of a 7, and the highlights on the chest are a 1 and a 0, making a 10. 7 and 10 is 17. The collar is the same as the Droeshout, and Shakespeare's head looks disembodied. When I was working on the 1740 in the earlier portrait, I'd forgotten that in his video, Chris had also mentioned the D shape of the collar in the Marshall. At the time when he made the video, he thought maybe the D equal to 4 would go with the 0, making 40. He was on the right track, but our opinions differ on how everything's supposed to be counted. So here's where I think the 40, or rather the 4T, is encoded. We have 17 in the clothing and 4 from the D shape of the collar. To get the last number, we simply add the number of buttons, which are 12, and the lines in the collar, which are 7. 12 and 7 is 19, and the 19th letter is T. Altogether, 7 and 10 in the clothing adds to 17. Like the Droeshout, the collar's in the shape of a D, which is equal to 4. And there are 12 buttons and 7 lines in the collar, totaling 19. Which is equivalent to the letter T, 17 4T. Looking at them side by side, it's obvious that the Droeshout and the Marshall, which is based on the same portrait, are both encoded using the same method, with the cipher 1740 or 1740. Okay, this was sent to me by Patrick Jennings, aka The Amazing Mystico, who has a blog called hiddenmessagesinshakespeare.com. It's the John Hemmings and Henry Condell Memorial in the former churchyard of St. Mary, Aldermanbury in London. Hemmings and Condell were the actors said to have edited Shakespeare's first folio. The text is taken from the folio's epistle dedication. It's missing the words "to procure his orphans guardians," and it's set up with fewer words per line to fill up the page, but also to make certain words appear on a single line. Now the reason Patrick sent it to me is because he may have discovered De Vere's name hidden within the text. Patrick noticed that the word "without" is the only one that uses a double V. Compared to the other W's, you can see it's comprised of two V's or U's with a space in between them. It's just like in the folio, "without" spelled with two V's. However, by the way the words have been set on the line, with just these few words, Patrick was able to figure out this is a kind of puzzle. Please excuse the Alamy logo. This is the clearest copy of the image I could find online. As Patrick explained, a couple definitions of "without" are "on the outside" and "something absent or lacking." Applying the latter definition, "without ambition" means that ambition is lacking or absent. It isn't there, so we remove it, leaving the two words "without" and "either." Next, applying the other definition of "without" as "on the outside." On the outside of the line is the W comprised of two letter V's, and on the other end the two letters ER, giving us double V and ER. Now, reading what's left like it's a command or instructions, we have "ith out," and if we remove "ith" from "out" of both words, all that's left is the word "out," which we simply take out. Leaving us with the letters double V, EER. Above this, followed by dashes or hyphens, is the word "dead." Patrick divided the word into DE and AD. De, add, meaning to add de to the letters he found in the line below. I know the hyphens are replacing the words "to procure his orphans guardians" from the original folio text, but I think they might also serve here as a hint to connect these letters to the double V on the following line. Altogether, it's De double V EER, which is an anagram of De Vere, spelled with the double V that De Vere sometimes used. In addition to this, something I might have figured out is, including the ampersand or and symbol, there are 40 words on the right. Unfortunately, there aren't 17 on the left. However, the word "dead," which is where the name De Vere begins, is the 12th word. And it's followed by those 5 dashes or hyphens. Word 12 plus 5 hyphens, or 12 and 5, adds to 17. So where the hidden De Vere name begins with the 12th word, if we add the 5 hyphens, we get 17 on a page with 40 words. Is it a legitimate example of the number encoded into a work? You can decide. But I have one more item where I believe it's definitely there. This is the frontispiece from the History of the Royal Society, published in 1667. Quoting from an article online, established in 1660, the Royal Society was the offspring of the earlier meetings of scholars in London and Oxford, and sought to realize Francis Bacon's vision of experimental science as a collective activity undertaken for the good of the state. Now, the precursor to the Royal Society was the Invisible College, a term found in early Rosicrucian pamphlets, and I don't think it's a stretch when people say that the Rosy Cross gave rise to the Invisible College, which led to the founding of the Royal Society. Alright, the frontispiece shows a bust of Charles II, the Society's first patron. On the left is Viscount William Bronker, the first president, and on the right is Francis Bacon beneath the angel's wing. This is a reference to the last phrase of the Rosicrucian text Fama Fraternitatis, Sub umbra alarum tuarum Jehovah, which means, under the shadow or protection of thy wings, Jehovah. The portrait was sent to me by Alexander Waugh because he noticed that William Bronker and Francis Bacon are pointing to what appear to be two 11s. The first number is a Roman numeral 2 for Charles II, but it's also two 1s. And the barrel of the rifle that Francis Bacon's pointing at also looks like it could be two 1s. Two 1s make an 11, so Alexander's thinking this might be a twice 11 reference. In addition to this, I found a few more things. Bronker's finger is definitely pointing beneath the letter R, which is always equal to 17. Next, if we count the characters in the plinth, they break down like this. Carolus is 7 letters. The 2 is for Charles II and is read as a single character for the number 2, so it's counted as one character. Societatis is 10 letters, Regulus is 7, Author is 6, the and symbol is 1 character, and Patronus is 8. Added all together, they total 40. So the R is being pointed to for 17, and there are 40 characters in the lettering for 1740. Also, R is the third letter. The gematria value of 3 is equivalent to the letter C. R, letter 3, or C is RC, initials for Rosy Cross. There's something else in the background that I think is another code. The laurel, a symbol sacred to the god Apollo, being placed on the head of Charles II is obviously in the shape of a letter O, but notice the shape of the mast next to it. It looks like a letter X. Rosicrucian codes are often read like Hebrew from right to left, so I'm thinking this might be spelling ox. To the left of the OX are 2 instruments. If we tilt the instruments slightly, reading upwards, the first one looks like a number 4, and the second looks like a Greek delta or letter D, 4D. If we read this right to left, then down to up, it's Ox 4D or Oxford. Maybe look at it this way, Oxford Delta. The number 4 sounds like FOR, so altogether it would be pronounced Oxford. I also think the laurel and mast are a rose cross, just like the one found on the frontispiece of the 1611 King James Bible. It's based on the starogram or Tauro cross, where the loop is on the right side of the T. Notice how the laurel or O is offset to the right of the cross arm. The O represents the rose and the T the cross. Peter Amundsen proved that the OT stands for Rose Cross when he found this acrostic on page 2 of The Tempest. When OT is replaced by the letters RC, initials for Rosy Cross, it reads, Arcadia, lie there my art. In the last video, 47, I found another one of these offset OT Rose Crosses on the Sonnet's dedication grid, stemming from the R or 17 in the word 4T. It's 17-4T with a Rosy Cross. This character is found in the Bible frontispiece, the Sonnet's dedication grid, and here in the Royal Society portrait, and with each of these examples it's accompanied by 1740. Now, since that symbolizes a rose cross, I think these instruments are also 2 letter A's, just like in the headpieces found in the Shakespeare works. So in addition to the name Oxford, these characters are also an offset OT and two-letter A's, reflecting a rose cross and the double A headpiece, which is believed to stand for Apollo and Athena. One last code. As far as I can tell, this instrument is a clock. It appears to have 12 numbers on it, and if it is a clock, then the hands read 555. This could be referring to a chapter and verse from the Bible, but I have another idea. At first I thought since the gematria value of 5 is equal to the letter E and the Roman numeral for 5 is V, maybe 555 stood for EVV, or EVV, initials for Edward de Vere, which seems to go with the word Oxford in the background. But then I remembered something from my first video. Lux, L-U-X, is the Latin word for light and is comprised of the Roman numerals LVX, or 50, 5, and 10. Okay, you know how with the Roman numerals 4 and 9, the number for 4 is read as 5 minus 1, and 9 is 10 minus 1. It's called subtractive notation, where the first symbol is subtracted from the larger one. If we apply subtractive notation here and subtract the first symbol, the 5 or V, from the larger symbol, the 10 or X, then Lux can be read as 50 plus 10 minus 5, or 55. I mentioned earlier that the letter E is equal to 5. If Lux is equal to 55, then 555 can be E Lux. In Latin, the translation of E Lux is out of the light, which is similar to the Fiat Lux or Let There Be Light codes I found in the sonnets and the first page of Genesis in the King James Bible. Is 555 a Rosicrucian cipher, another signal to the Brotherhood? I don't know, I'm speculating. But 1740 is definitely on the plinth, and with the third letter being an R that Bronker's pointing to, I believe it stands for RC. He and Bacon might also be pointing to twice 11, and there appears to be letters spelling Oxford, which also looks like a rose cross symbol with 2 A's. I understand why Rosy Cross codes would be here, but why references to Edward de Vere, and what would he have to do with the Royal Society? Well, some believe William Shakespeare was a Freemason. More than that, according to Alfred Dodd, William Shakespeare was not only a Freemason, he was the father and founder of the fraternity, the writer of the rituals. I even saw someone else mention that he may have been Grand Master of both the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons. Now, when Dodd's referring to William Shakespeare, he means Francis Bacon. However, as far as codes and similar evidence goes, I've seen far more indicating that William Shakespeare was Edward de Vere. Not only that, the codes also show evidence of the Rosicrucians being involved with the works as early as 1593. I have an hypothesis regarding de Vere's relationship to the Rosy Cross, but that's going to be part of another video. Francis Bacon's goal was the Great Instauration, the renewal of the arts and sciences, but it may have all begun with the 4th T, Edward de Vere, and the Rosy Cross, with the link continuing to Bacon, the Invisible College, and the Royal Society. Are twice 11 and the name Oxford hidden here, or is it a Rosy Cross followed by 2 A's? Or is it both? Is 555 a Rosicrucian cipher that means out of the light? Whatever the case, I'm certain that the plinth has on it an RC code and 1740. I've explained in video 42 how initials for Rosy Cross can be RX. R is 17, and in Greek, X or Chi is equal to 40. So maybe the Rosy Cross were also using the number 1740. Since it can be both Oxford's number and initials for Rosy Cross, I find it curious that there's this OX Rose Cross in the background, with what looks like 2-letter A's, but it can also be spelling the name Oxford. It's as if Oxford and the Rosy Cross are one and the same. Think about that. Alright, that's it for now. Remember, the next time you see this most famous portrait of William Shakespeare, know that you're looking at 1740, and maybe an allusion to the head of John the Baptist, with the 624 date of his nativity encoded as 1 + 623. Thank you to Alexander Waugh, Chris Johnson, Patrick Jennings, Jack, Ron Raffel, and to you for watching.